What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Saturday, August 17th. Crazy, crazy, crazy time to be a wrestling fan right now. We got all kinds of good stuff coming up. We've got All In, Bash at Berlin, all kinds of huge shows on tap here for this fall season. We're going to break down last night's SmackDown. I've got a sweet crew hanging out with me today. Let me introduce them to you. First and foremost, out in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that is, good friend of mine, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you on this fine Saturday?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad you clarified that it's not Philadelphia, Mississippi. I appreciate that. But I'm doing good.
That is a place.
It is an actual place. I don't know how big of a place it is, but it is a place. But looking forward to covering last night's SmackDown as we're on our way to Bash in Berlin, and it's always fun with this crew to do a show. So let's get at it.
Absolutely. I am stoked to get at it myself. But before we do, we've got a late replacement. Megan, the best in the biz. We miss her dearly, but we've got an ample replacement, sending it directly across the pond to the land of Scotland, to a good friend of mine. I believe they call him Soul.
Hey, how are we doing today? Last minute replacement. Waistcoat is in the wash, so it's just basically a half and half today. Not in the studio.
Respect.
Ignore the mess. Ignore that. I'm chilling out my rocking chair like an 86-year-old in Tennessee. But besides that, I'm here to talk about SmackDown. Some good stuff on this. Don't worry. There's some good stuff, but some stuff I thought was best way to describe it: minimal and cringe. So let's get into it, shall we?
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into it. And I also have to give you big ups on the fact that they do have great rocking chairs in Tennessee. That's true. I can say that from experience. I'm heading out there in September. Shout out Paul Banish, all the Banishes for that matter. And I'm excited to visit. And guess what they have on their porch? An excellent rocking chair. Just saying. It's a great point. We've also got some comments here. Bobby Batito, Monster shout out. Happy Saturday. Anthony Manzano with hi. Calf Koske has got his ones up. Absolutely. Numero and Superfly. Hello. Random suggestion. They should have added Chelsea Green onto the performance as the grand finale for Nia's celebration during Pretty Deadly's performance. Could have been fun. I don't hate that in the least. And then Bobby's also got his ones up as well. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about Nia's celebration for sure. An interesting one. You have the Tiffany Stratton factor here. Then Mia Yim kind of, breaks up the party, right? And it's hard to have a full-blown party in a ring pretty much anywhere in wrestling. I don't know that we've seen very many successful ones outside of maybe rock and sock type things. This is your life. I think that was pretty successful, despite the fact that only one person wasn't having fun. Everyone else was, which I found interesting. There's not many parties in the ring, though, or celebrations in the ring that go off without a hitch. This one certainly did not. Anthony, I want to get your thoughts on it first. Nia Jax, Mia Yim, we saw later in the show, their encounter looking like that's the next title match. I'm excited for it. Mi Chin, I apologize. But either way, what are your thoughts on that? And then the Tiffany part, a little bit of a loose end there, not totally tied up yet quite. And my biggest takeaway and what I enjoyed the most is at least that Money in the Bank briefcase is serving its purpose as it should. It's floating out there as, that caveat. It's in the back of your mind no matter what move the champion makes. And I do think for the first time in a while, men's or women's, with the Money in the Bank briefcase, they're actually doing a solid job of building this one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there was a lot going on in this segment. And I understand why a lot of people had an issue with it. Was it cringe? Was it corny? Yeah, at times. But as a whole, Tiffany is over the top. Nia has embraced this over-the-top queen gimmick, essentially. So when you're having a coronation or a celebration segment, it's going to be over the top. So I was okay with that. It wasn't super long. It didn't drag itself out. It sowed the seeds further of the Tiffany Nia relationship where, you know, Tiffany's going to cash in at some point, probably on Nia. And Nia's not an idiot. She knows it's going to happen, which is why she said to her, like, people need to bow to me. I'm the queen. I'm the women's champion. Tiff, you should probably start. Oh, me? And then, she, made any excuse under the sun not to take the knee. Which I thought was, okay, you're at least sowing the seeds here. She threw the distraction of going, well, Pretty Deadly have a performance for you. Now, again, Pretty Deadly, they're characters, they're jesters, they're equivalent of like Tyler Breeze, who was over the top, or Dalton Castle with the boys. They're comedy characters. They're not. Should they be more serious as a tag team, as WWE tries to build up a tag division? Yeah, but for this, it wasn't out of character for them to be over the top goofy, and I was okay with that. And while they're doing it, Mia Yim, and I don't fault you, Clark, because WWE seems to go back and forth whether or not they want to go with Michin or Mia Yim. So,
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I'll always call her Mia Yim. But just as a whole, her coming in and breaking up the party, I think she's a good opponent for Nia. I do like that Mia's getting used more because we've seen her both on NXT and on the main roster getting used. Now, will this result in her eventually taking a women's title? I would love to see that happen because I think she is somebody that deserves at least one run with the title and not necessarily being put in the position of a Natalya where like you're used to put everyone else over. You're a good utility player, but not actually. I think she could do it. And I think it would be smart because everyone's focus is Tiffany and Nia. If she sneaks in there in a 3-way or something and she ends up with the belt and she pins Tiffany, and Nia is even more furious because she lost it to Tiffany, who cashed in, and neither one of them have the belt. So it creates a tension with all three, and you can kind of run with that if you wanted to do that.
There are so many choices here. I don't think Tiffany should fail her cash in, truthfully.
No,
but I
I'm
do
just saying,
absolutely love the idea. I think it's really fun. One thing that kind of threw me last night that I found interesting with the take the knee part. We've long speculated about the potential of Nia in the bloodline. It felt a little acknowledge me. It felt a little acknowledge me, like maybe just a little hint.
Yes.
Just a little nugget, just a little maybe. I don't know if I'm reaching for straws there or grasping at straws. What's the cliche?
Yeah, I mean,
for?
I agree with you.
You have to kind of think maybe.
I mean, here's the thing. The fun part with this is because that family is so big, Nia, in theory, could do her own bloodline with just female talents. She's got Naomi. She's got The Rock's daughter, technically. Tamina's always floating. I don't even know if she's still employed, but Tamina's always floating there.
If she retired.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, in theory, she could.
Okay, I will say when it comes to this subject, though, first off, potential of Nia in the bloodline. Second off, the celebration itself. Tiffany Stratton's involvement. And then now we've got Michin and Nia Jax for the title. So we've also got another comment from our good friend Josh Markowitz. This 86-year-old from Tennessee has quite the unique Tennessee accent, it seems. He does. But we've got our resident 86-year-old from Tennessee. Break that one down for me, Soul.
I first off want to agree with Anthony's points there about Michin being used. I think it's a very good sign. I think she would be somebody who would really benefit from a women's mid-card title on the main roster, just to get that exposure and opportunity. A good solid start for Nia Jax's run. As you know, in the start of this, I mentioned something I didn't like and cringe. I thought this segment was a bit cringy, like the whole Pretty Deadly part of it. I really didn't jive with. Like, I feel like it just felt pointless. And like Tiffany Stratton is shown to be quite a smart wrestler. You know, she had the stuff with Becky, NXT run. She wasn't as the ditzy blonde stereotype, but I feel like she clearly is playing that up a lot more. I'm not a fan of it when I know what she's done in the past. She's very competent. She's very smart. So why has she been dumbed down for the Nia Jax storyline? Don't get me wrong as well. I like her Money in the Bank briefcase. I think it's probably one of the best custom briefcases that WWE's ever done. I just wonder how much gas this has. If I have to compare what Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton are, I get massive Miz and Alex Riley vibes of like that whole dynamic. And we know what happened to Alex Riley. I don't want that to happen to Tiffany Stratton, and I doubt it will. But I can't, get those feelings out of my mind that this is just female Miz and Alex Riley.
Yeah, that is in the interest of fairness. I hear you there, and it's one of those things I think the briefcase, because and Kafkowski has a comment up here about WWE has spoiled us in terms of actual acting segments. This was not up to par. I agree with that, but I also agree that we've been spoiled on like the briefcase and that situation so many times, where like they got us the first few times and now it's enough that it's formulaic. Trying something different, I don't know, is the only solution that I can think of. So like for me, I don't know what else they can do, because at this point we're just going to see through the old school, like,
I mean, if anything, this could just be WWE's Mariah and Toni Storm, where, like how Mariah was playing to get Toni into the right moment. Maybe this is what Tiffany will do in Nia, play with her and be the whole ditzy, and then at the right moment will strike with the briefcase. Maybe, but I just think, maybe with Tiffany's history of being such an accomplished wrestler in NXT and her track record, she doesn't really need to be the ditzy blonde that people really don't see her as.
I don't think it's directly
Fair.
Toni and Mariah, only because Toni did not have any indication that Mariah was going to turn her. We all knew as fans, but she didn't. Nia's not blind to this. She knows Tiffy's got that briefcase, and it's always in the back of her mind. So I think there is a difference there, at least, that, it's not a complete blindside.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Either way, we could talk about that for the rest of the show for sure. But let's move on to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens is Canadian, my friends. And yes, he picked up the victory against Grayson Waller. But if there's one thing, if you watch hockey like I do, I've been a diehard Chicago Blackhawks fan since I was a little kid, one of the original 6. You do not touch the Stanley Cup before you've won it. You do not touch it. It is, I'm not superstitious, but I'm stitious enough to know you do not make that mistake.
Yeah. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in wrestling, is challengers picking up the title before they win it. I hate that.
Don't touch it. Just look at it. It's more impactful. It's more impactful if you just look at it. Just give it that look. I might. It's mine next. Not going to touch it now. Now, a few things I do want to point out. Wins via pop-up powerbomb. It does seem anytime Kevin Owens is in more of a heel run, he's going to be winning via pop-up powerbomb. This doesn't feel like a heel run. It feels like a tweener run. But I at least enjoy the effort.
No.
Because he's wrestling a heel in this match anyway. But he doesn't use the stunner. He doesn't give you the big pop there. He saves it for, yes, he does pick up the belt, curses himself when it comes to that situation, at least in my eyes, and probably Danhausen's as well. He's cursed when it comes to that. Yeah, you can't win. And trust me, I grew up a Cubs fan. I know all about curses. Ask me about goats, in my opinion.
Billy goats?
On that. Yeah, no, trust me. We have an interesting relationship with Greece when it comes to the Chicago Cubs. But then Cody Rhodes is here too.
Yes.
It's Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens and the whole 9. Anthony, I'm not even going to make a tie clip joke. Talk to me about Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens.
Okay. Looking into this match on its face, I think everyone knows KO's probably not picking up the win in Berlin. And that's before anything happens. Like at this point, and I've said this on the show before, I don't think Cody is losing that title to anybody not of the Samoan line. Between now and then, it's probably either Rock or Roman. At this point, But just as a whole, KO being this tweener role, where I complained about it last week. The whole thing of going, I don't really want a shot. Like, that's not the KO character. The KO character was introduced to us on NXT as the prize fighter. And if anybody knows his history with Ring of Honor, this is a guy that wants the title. So I get what you're saying about him holding the title beforehand, but if you tell the story correctly, that was, the tease, almost like Lord of the Rings, the ring. If you touch the ring, you want to keep the ring. If you tell it that way and this leads to a KO heel turn and you try to make the run with that, but I don't see you doing that because at some point you would want KO to win the title, but I don't necessarily think they're going to take the title off of him because Rock and Roman are kind of in the wings. So right now he's in the tweener role. They got to figure out something to do with KO, like long term, past this. If they turned him heel and they had him go a feud with LA Knight, I think that's a possibility. Does he need another U.S. title? No, but at the same point, if the world title picture is kind of locked up or quasi locked up, then you're really going to have him lose more because you did this when Roman had the title. At some point, he deserves to have another world title reign and a legitimate one. This one, not like the Universal one, which was a cup of coffee. He deserves it. Also, side note, make a decision with Waller and Theory. Like, are they or are they not together? Like, you tease it every week and you still haven't broken them up. And it's getting to the point where when you eventually do it, no one's going to care because no one really cares about Theory now. And if anything, this getting dragged out may drag down Waller. So either make a decision, either keep them together or stop teasing it.
I think has
anyone cared about Theory since Mania 39 when he completely pooped the bed?
No.
What's interesting to me is I feel like you both just made an excellent point there, but it's not even just about both Waller and Theory. It's the fact that they've teased them breaking up. That's the most interesting thing about them. But then it also feels like when it's necessary for a segment where you need two guys that are capable of what they're capable of, they need them together.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's exposing creative not being able to make a decision on it in a way that you don't see in other storylines. It's the one where you can point to and you're like, they can't decide.
It's almost
like it's visible that they can't decide.
I agree with you. I think it's almost a situation where they're like, okay, we want to break them up and we want to make Theory a face in theory and pun intended. But if you wanted to make them, you want to make them that. But the problem is there's nobody else to replace the Stooge heels other than maybe Pretty Deadly. You might be able to do that with Pretty Deadly as the Stooge heels.
That's what I kind of feel like the first segment. And so I'm wondering if you agree with me on this. I feel like the first segment was a bit of a test run. Yep. On can Pretty Deadly do what Waller and Theory have been doing?
An audition, if you will.
So I agree. I think Pretty Deadly can be that very comical side heel, but I think because I've seen so much of it from Grayson and Theory, I kind of don't want more of it. I kind of want maybe a bit more serious addition to the tag team division. I mean, I completely agree though with Anthony's whole thing on Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. I mean, come on, make up your minds.
Do something.
Like, no offense, nobody's gonna, that's going to be a bathroom break match. Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, the blood match at Bad Blood. These two friends are now fighting it out, and everybody just turns away and is like, I'll take a corn dog for $4 tonight, please.
When it would have been good, I feel like 4 months ago when they first teased it.
If they did this, like, I don't know, heck, do it Clash of the Castle, or like, what pay-per-view? Oh, really, they didn't win it. What was the pay-per-view before where they lost the title? Was it Money in the Bank? Or was it, when did DIY.
DIY beat them on a SmackDown.
Like it was on a SmackDown, but
it was SmackDown in their hometown in Cleveland.
Right,
it was SmackDown before SummerSlam.
Oh, right. Then whatever the pay-per-view leading up to is, just have like Grayson Waller and Fury on a. I know, but they had a 3-hour pre-show on SummerSlam, didn't they? 3 hours, right?
Oh, no, wait, that's right. They lost the tag titles on the SmackDown. The DIY lost on the SmackDown before SummerSlam. But yeah, it was a SmackDown where they won it.
Yeah,
We've got
the next paper after that. Just have the blow off match and start up. Heck, make it. You've got Carmelo Hayes and Andrade doing the best of 3 or whatever. Just why not do it to Feeler and do something?
Honestly, they're probably going to do the Theory Waller match on the first SmackDown on USA in September.
Whoop-dee-doo!
It's not a pay-per-view match.
Okay, really quick. We got to talk about.
Nielsen's gonna love this.
Sorry, guys. End of the segment. We got to talk about our friends over at Next Level. Go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic. All of our content across all platforms linked all in one place. Check it out. Absolutely free. No gimmicks. Thriving wrestling community. Go check it out. But we do actually have to move on segments wise. That's completely my fault, guys. I did not mean to cut you off in the middle of a really good discussion like that, but we could probably do like an hour show on it. It's my fault. It's the difficulties of hosting duty. You know, we got obligations over here. It's brutal. But let's actually talk about an exciting tag match. Not just an exciting tag match. I complained deeply earlier this week, basically, or last week. I'm not really sure. Remember, I don't do math. But I complained about the state of tag team wrestling. I said, I want more tag matches, not for the titles that matter. I didn't think this was before the match. I did after. I said in the very same take, the very same segment. What are we doing with Street Profits? Okay, never mind. It was like the Street Profits in DIY, do it yourself, heard me and said, okay, Clark, shut up for a second. Watch this, because I enjoyed every second of this tag match. I loved the Profits going over. I love the idea of the Profits being the new number one contender potentially, or even not after a tag match of this quality. But as a fan of tag team wrestling as a whole, I cannot poke any holes in this one. I was so excited. I was like, this is exactly what I asked for. It felt like they heard me, and I'm not sure that they did. But it was awesome. And I want to know, Soul, from you've watched as many tag matches as I have the last few years. Did you get the same feeling watching this one? Because I just thought it separated itself even from the rest of the card, and it wasn't the most built match on the card.
So the last tag team match that I thought was like genuinely entertaining and fun for me was Bucks and FTR at Dynasty for the vacant AEW World Championships. The Street Profits and DIY on SmackDown, I feel like, was the most fun I've had with a tag team match since then. It was the most rejuvenating match I think tag team wrestling as a whole needs. They really absolutely brought it and killed it. Hopefully this is the continuation for the tag team division in WWE. I mean, heck, one of the SmackDown tag team champions has reasons why he can't travel internationally. That means that possibly the SmackDown tag team titles will not be included in international tours. And we know WWE are doing a lot of them, especially with the PLEs. You kind of want all the titles really focused when going international. Take a break, rotation of them out, and putting on someone of the Street Profits who have done well with tag team championships. I honestly would put the belts on them to really have a team that can go internationally, tours or whatever. PLEs just to give them that showcase. I understand people like, well, the Bloodline's popular. Well, one of those stars, yes, they may be the reasons why they can't have the belts internationally, is bigger than the tag team division. He's probably one of the biggest things that a lot of people are enjoying in SmackDown, and honestly the biggest guy in his own faction at this point. But yeah, Street Profits and DIY truly brought it. They've really elevated tag team wrestling, but I hope this is a continuation and not a one-off.
Same. I really hope that this isn't a one-off. Because I'm in total agreement with everything you just said. Like, I was begging for it, basically. I'm like, I missed great tag team action. We had it too. It felt like we had it at a certain time, not that long ago, and then we lost it.
Yeah, I'll say this as well. I'll say this as well because I was trolling in the group chat. Yes, this was better than Bucks and Acclaimed on Dynamite. All right, I've said it. Then you can all shush your holes. You can shush your holes. But then again, Acclaimed FTR is what, in 6 hours? That's going to probably beat this out the war. It's FTR. I'm going to win. I'm going to go back to my ways.
They'll all be good, I think, too. And Anthony, I want your thoughts on that, too. Because, you know, we talk classic tag teams all the time and whatnot. The Profits, I said this yesterday, ironically, on a late night edition of Sunday Night Spotlight that's yet to yet to be released. And while we're no spoilers, I did say I think the Street Profits have the potential to be a Hall of Famer or a Hall of Fame tag team.
Listen, when you're looking to build up a tag division, the Street Profits and DIY are two teams you can absolutely cornerstone this. They are teams that know how to make other teams when they wrestle them. And when you get these two together, that's when magic happens. Last night, magic happened. If they're going to rebuild the tag division, and it's funny, Clark, because last Sunday on the Heaven or Hell and Purgatory,
that's where we had the debate.
You sent the tag division to hell. I sent it to Purgatory, said it's fixable, and then this happens. If you are able to keep this up and build teams, you're going to have something extra special there. And I look at this and I go, the Street Profits and DIY, you get them in a series, especially if it's the tag titles involved. You know, we saw what happened for Edge, Christian, and the Hardys in the best of 7. Yeah. That started the greatest tag team run in the company's history. You could do that with these teams. And I agree with Soul in the fact that, like, as much as I think they were going Bloodline Usos, obviously they were going to do Guerrillas of Destiny. Tonga Low was a dud. So they're like, all right, we're not going to do that. So we threw Jacob in there. Jacob's the biggest star, which obviously we're going to get to, but like they don't really need the tag titles. So if you throw it to the Street Profits and then you do a DIY Street Profits and maybe some other teams, you want to mix it up, you could build the tag division up just the way you did the IC, the way you're trying to do with the US. It's going to be very scary if WWE is able to get all the titles on that run, because they're already doing dominant, international tour stuff. Like, if you're able to get them all to matter again, that's scary.
I'll say as well. Quickly say to Anthony's point as well. The best of 7. Look what that did for the AEW's Trios Championships when they were obviously vacated, and they had the Lucha Bros and Elite best of 7. A lot of people loved that, and it kind of brought the Trios titles back in a way. I think if WWE did that with maybe even Street Profits or Bloodline or Street Profits and DIY, or maybe like a Eliminator style best of 7 with 7 teams or something like that. Just spitballing, but I agree with Anthony and Mr. Philadelphia himself. That's not in Mississippi.
Absolutely, the true original Philly.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about our main event of the evening, and let's get into it early so we can really spend some time on it. Let's really talk about this one and vet this subject. I'm even going to switch the graphic early.
Ooh, he's
the
serious.
Question here is, could Jacob Fatu be the next tribal chief? And I believe that's based on the segment we saw last night, which I don't believe. I actually know that. I don't know why I said it like that. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. I know that's being asked because of the segment that we saw last night. We saw mounted punches on Roman Reigns without really a Thez press. I mean, we're talking about a guy just sitting on top of another guy, punching him in the face as hard as he can. And you do not see people that prone of Roman Reigns level very often. He ironically had the cutoff hoodie with the exact same logo as the t-shirt he was wearing underneath, gave it away on the way out, which monster shout out Roman. That was a good look. Talk about a babyface move. But could Jacob Fatu be the next tribal chief? I've got my opinion, and I'm going to start with mine. I'm going to start with my opinion. Nope.
Shooting.
Nope. No, he cannot. And here is why. Because Jacob Fatu, as uncontrollable as, yes, he's friends with us, but we really don't know why or what he's doing, is where he's at his finest. As an absolute, he doesn't care enough to be the tribal chief. That's not even what he wants. It's not even in the lexicon for him. He just knows you guys. That's it. He's got like some familiarity. The organizational factor, that's where Roman and Solo make sense. I get it now after last night. Jacob Fatu is not in a position to tell people what to do because he doesn't know what he's going to do. Jacob Fatu is operating on a planet where he just sees something and does it. That's it. He's completely reactive. And that's the brilliance of Jacob Fatu. And that's what makes him so dangerous. But it does not lend him to leading an organization, to leading a group. Does not make him the chief. It doesn't. He would need the wisest of wise men in that scenario based on his behavior in all of these situations. And that's not what we're looking at. So right this second, no. Is he the most electric and the best of the bloodline? Oh, yeah. Sign me up all day long. Good friend of the show, Josh Markowitz. Fun fact, I PayPal'd $40 to Fatu for an Uber when his card declined after an MLW show. LOL. Monster shout out Markowitz for getting Jacob Fatu home. See?
Oi, Markowitz, you got to go to SmackDown and have a sign that says, "Give me back my 40 quid."
That's what I'm saying is he's got to be the tribal chief now. I'm totally kidding. But the no, the answer to me is Jacob Fatu is perfect as the wild card in the group. While he's the perfect enforcer and everything else, his unpredictability and I would say the way that he sort of defaults to violence is something that would be lost if we now insert him in a leadership role. And that's not what I want to see out of Jacob Fatu. I watched the Looney Tunes as a kid. I want the Tasmanian Devil. He doesn't care. If you're in his way, you won't be anymore. And I want it to stay that way. He said he thought a free t-shirt made up for the $40. Sorry, Jacob. Need at least $32 back. Shout out Josh. That's all time. But yeah, that's my opinion on Jacob Fatu. I'm not saying that he can't be in the future, but right this second, not the role. So do you see in the near future Jacob Fatu as the next tribal chief?
No, I see him as the next WWE Undisputed Champion or even World Heavyweight Champion. This guy is amazing. Give him the belt. But let's talk about something that I absolutely just don't care about. I think it's stupid. It's Solo Sikoa, right? I mean, like, this whole thing when Roman was gone, he was like, "I am the tribal chief. I lead my family. I bring the food that's maybe croutons with a wee bit of chicken to the table." And then Roman comes back at SummerSlam. He's screaming in the corner like a kid that's been told you can't watch Looney Tunes for the 6,000th time. And then on SmackDown, he's like, "Oh, well, Roman's back. I guess if he can beat me, I will give him the tribal chief moniker because that's how it works." It was like, bro, you've been fighting this thing for like the past couple of months. You're literally the kid who was like, "My dad could beat up your dad." He was like, "All right, bring him up." And then he brings on, and he's like, "Oh, no, I can't beat him. Oh, sorry, I'll just sit down now in the corner of the room." You're nothing, bro. You're nothing. Like, here's the funny thing as well. Jacob Fatu's held the tag championship for 15 days. I checked on Cage Match. Solo's held a title for 7 days in WWE, which was the NXT North American, and he was stripped of it because he wasn't technically on the roster or something like that. Like, you've been there that many times as the enforcer, the quiet guy. Now you've been made to talk and be something of yourself, but you're always just the guy with the sticky thumb that goes into people's larynxes to win matches. Like, the whole tribal chief moniker and the bloodline, I think, should be finished and done as soon as this whole Roman and Rock thing. Like Roman and Rock thing doesn't need to be a bloodline. It could literally just be them feuding. You don't need to have the bloodline around.
Wow.
I would just get rid of the bloodline. But I know they're not because I've seen the bloodline so Fanatics are having their festival right now with WWE Superfly there, and the Netflix Raw advertisements were there, which had the whole bloodline faction of it. The four guys: Tama, Tonga, Fatu, and Solo. So they're probably going to be second round, but I don't think they should. I think just it's like Grey's Anatomy. Yes, it's popular and loved, but when you just rinse and repeat the same things and the whole cast changes all the time, it's not the same product that a lot of people loved and it was at its height. I thought the whole Tribal Chief moniker could only be changed in Tribal Combat, like what Jay did with Roman at SummerSlam. But now it's just whoever holds the pomegranate beads. You're now the champion. You're now the tribal chief. Here's the thing. Cool. Word I can't pronounce. I'm Scottish. Here's what I would do, right? Obviously, we've had the sad passing of Afa and Sika, right? I would have Roman
Yesterday.
get Roman this tribal chief moniker and retire it in their memory to give the whole tribal chief moniker what it's been for Roman in his career, the bloodline, and the whole Fatu family. Let him have it, retire it in their memory, then have The Rock do the thing with Roman and maybe do it like a disrespect in the family sort of thing and build on that. I think the bloodline needs to really wrap up by either next Mania because it's gone on for too long, and clearly this whole new cast of characters with the only legacy character being Solo ain't driving it. For me, Roman is the bigger star. He's outshining the bloodline. He's doing his own thing, and he's truly loved as a babyface, which is great to see. I just don't think it needs to be around anymore when it's been so great.
So here's my only caveat to that, and I got to ask Anthony about this obviously as well. Historically speaking, we're talking about a 47-year story when it comes to superstar Billy Graham and Dusty Rhodes at the Garden and Cody avenging that. Why do we lie in nostalgia for that story in a way where we do not for the bloodline? Given, I mean, we've had the passing of Afa and Sika this year. We have the entire bracket. We have the entire family tree essentially in one place at one time. We're talking about multi-third generation wrestlers. We celebrate it with second generation with Charlotte Flair, third generation with Randy Orton. We celebrated it with Bray Wyatt. We've celebrated it with numerous stars. I don't understand why the bloodline story doesn't garner that same, at times, doesn't garner that same level of nostalgia for history, given how much that family tree has given to the business in the past. I want to see all of the little intricacies play out personally. That's personal opinion there too, Soul. So I'm not saying like, oh, like nothing you said is valid at all. No, I agree that the execution in and of itself is worth criticizing 100%. But I do personally want to see Solo and Fatu fighting over who's representing their Hall of Fame ancestors more honorably, more than I necessarily want to see two random stars. Now, story excluded there, right? Just develop a blood feud separately. I understand new is great too, but there's got to be a balance of both. And when you got to strike while the iron's hot. When you have a moment like this, where you have all in the same place at the same time, to me, it would feel like a stone left unturned not to play it all out. That's my only caveat on what you said there, Soul. But I do actually agree with a lot of what you said about Solo, especially as the leader. Anthony, how do we fix this? Is Jacob Fatu the next tribal chief? Probably not. That's my opinion. I think it's definitely Soul's opinion. What is yours on this? And then also, how do you feel about the future of the bloodline and the bloodline storyline just as a whole?
It's funny because Cody Rhodes' song says, wrestling has more than one royal family. And obviously that was a shot at the Rhodes matter just as much as the McMahons. The truth of the matter is there have been a number of prestigious families in wrestling, but if you really look at it, the true royal family of professional wrestling, and especially WWE, since the entire run, has been the Anoa'i family. Every generation has had some representation of those family members, and they've made a difference in this business, whether they were on top like The Rock and Roman, whether they played a role in getting other people over, Yokozuna, Umaga. I mean, the list goes on and on of people in that family. This bloodline essentially is Solo took the reins. He really wasn't the true heir apparent, and he's brought in family members that were uncontrollable, that were the wild Samoans, if you want to call it that, in tribute to Afa and Sika, if you want to say that. But they're the uncontrollable. They're the ones that like, listen, they're savages. We can't have them in our thing. We need order. And Solo took that and went, I can control them. To me, out of the people they brought in, Tongalo was a complete dud, but Tama Tonga is good in the ring. It's an interesting character, but to me, out of anybody that I think Paul Levesque has brought in since having control, it's Jacob Fatu. That's a once-in-a-generation talent. That is somebody, when I first saw him in MLW, I went, okay, first off, why is he not in WWE? Is there something in his history that they wouldn't sign him? Because especially the pedigree, like, if you're Samoan in wrestling, it's probably the greatest thing that Vince ever did was to make that connection with the Anoas, because they pretty much, you're born, you wrestle,
and the Fatus.
you wrestle, and you join WWE. That's pretty much the family line. Like, that's where you go. So, but Jacob Fatu is one of those once-in-a-generation talents. He'll be a world champion unless something happens. That guy's destined to be a world champion. Will he be a tribal chief? I think that's kind of the Roman Solo Rock thing, and I think that'll eventually fade out with them. But Fatu, Jacob Fatu will be a world champion sooner rather than later, and that's a guy you could build behind. He's going to be the talent that Umaga was supposed to be, but unfortunately Umaga passed early. Like, he's that type of talent.
So this is really interesting because our good friend Josh Markowitz and obviously Wrestling Republic, our own, the man, the myth, the legend, said once they give him a mic and he leaves this intense, insane, nonverbal role he's in, you'll see his incredible promo work. He also may be the best in-ring talent in the company. Seriously. What's more interesting about that comment too, really quickly, Soul, before you go, I'm so sorry. The Josh interviewed Jacob Fatu and has trained directly near him, knows him personally well. And if you go back and watch their interview, it is very different than the in-ring character he's generally played. Jacob Fatu can really talk. There's no doubt about that. And Josh pointing that out, I think, is relevant too, because I'm not trying to say that that's not possible. On the route they're currently on, to bridge that gap would be a little unbelievable right away. I think we have to work to get there.
The one thing I want to point out, because I didn't get to say it, I know it's almost like a happy accident with Jacob injured in the lake. He looked more badass with the boot on, beating up Roman, than he would have without it.
Is that the truth?
It's mental. I mean, look, I've studied on the bloodline, but I really like Jacob. I want that clear for the courts, for the records. I like Jacob Fatu, and I think from what we've seen, obviously with Fanatics Raw advertisement for Netflix, bloodline going to Raw, Jacob Fatu as world heavyweight champion would be ideal. Heck, I know his age might be a factor in all that, but like I've said, Gunther's won it, Cena at Mania, Cena wins it. Why not have Cena put over Fatu in that dominating display like Brock Lesnar, when Brock Lesnar beat Cena and like dominantly and won the championships, and let Fatu do that? Or
that could be outstanding.
Breaker. But yeah, like as I've said about the bloodline, I think you can really now define it in two eras: when Roman was in charge and when the Renegades were in charge.
Yeah.
Right? There will be fans of both eras. There will be people who love the whole continuation, and there'll be fans like me that said it's like Lost, it's like Grey's Anatomy, it's like One Piece. It's gone on for too long. It was great when it started, had this amazing continuous run of a story, but now it's just filler arc.
It's too convoluted.
And we're not enjoying it as before. Because look, if Bloodline stuff is all that's going to get 30-minute segments and all that, and not allow other parts of the show to sign, you need to know, yes, it may make money. Yes, it may be a draw for fans, but every story has an end, and you need to make sure the end comes before it becomes a joke and stale.
I think that's totally fair. And I agree. I mean, we could break this down for the rest of the day, but that does bring us to the end of the show. It's been a blast on Saturday. If it's your first time tuning in, please like and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. If it's not your first time tuning in, thank you so much for always tuning in. You guys are the best. Kafkaske, Chris LeClaire, Bobby Petito, Josh Markowitz, all kinds of names. Lord Virus of Nurgle. I saw a bunch of them in there. All of y'all, we cannot appreciate you enough. Have a great Saturday, a better Sunday. Next week, we will see you for all kinds of all-in coverage, all kinds of WWE coverage. Bash at Berlin coming up soon too. Stay tuned for everything. Noon Pacific, that's 8 in the UK, 3 East, 2 Central, and of course 9 a.m. in Hawaii every day for the daily. Check out the Soul Sessions. We got Sold Separately coming up too. That's a lot of S's. I'm glad I actually pronounced that all correctly. Everyone have a great day though. In spite of that, have some fun. And thank you again for tuning in. Absolutely.